Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Scenic View podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Owens, Communications Director here at Scenic, alongside Artis Watkins, Suzanne Beasley, and Sammy Klein. We're excited to have a big show this week, so let's get right into it. We said about 8 episodes ago we were going to change the theme song, so we need to get on that. So, like I said, we do have an exciting week this week. Staci Meyer, the director of the Office of State Human Resources, is coming in, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about everything going on with state employment. But before we do that, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in North Carolina. Not a whole lot going on with the budget, though, as usual, right, Suzanne?
Nothing
Nothing new to report?
No, nothing new to report. But if you guys will remember when they were here for their few days of session last month, that Speaker Hall actually announced on the House floor that he didn't anticipate any more votes this year. So the Senate had already packed up and left town. They'll still have to come back for their 2 sessions that they've already got set up for November and December, but we don't anticipate any business, which means we don't anticipate a budget.
We had some questions about that already this week, again, on the Facebook, and I saw that you had responded, but
Yeah.
people still want to know obviously where the raises are, right?
Would be too, yeah.
But we did have one meeting last week. The SCOGE committee came in, right?
The House Select Committee on Government Efficiency met last week, and they heard from DOT and Paul Tyne, the new DMV commissioner. It was a lot of information.
Okay. Anything come out of it?
So, yeah, there was something interesting. Obviously, privatization and contractors come up anytime we're talking DOT and DMV. And so a question was asked in committee if some DOT projects had been handled by a contractor, and is that why it was taking so long? Well, Chairman Kidwell actually said, no, that's not the reason why. Private industry can always do it better than state government.
Better or more efficiently, or did he say?
And I'm paraphrasing right there too, but
He indicated private industry.
Yeah, was better. Yeah.
That's interesting to me because I saw an article from the WRAL News that was talking about the state fair. If you guys noticed this year, there's always a lot of traffic around the state fair because so many people come to Raleigh. But this year, it seemed to be a little more increased.
It was so much worse. Goodness.
Yeah. And I saw an article that was talking about major construction on Blue Ridge Road that was supposed to be finished in 2024 is still happening, contributing to a lot of that traffic. And it got me thinking, so I went and looked at the NCDOT website to see more about that project and saw that it was contracted out and is now delayed to possibly be finished in mid-2026.
So this is the more efficient private industry out there that was supposed to be done in 2024?
And now it's going to be.
According to this article, yes.
Later in 2026. Okay.
And how much are we paying?
According to this, the contract was awarded to them for $346.2 million.
That's a lot.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
It's a whole lot.
Yeah.
Come on.
To be late.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, okay, I'm having a hard time. I'm calling bull hockey on the fact that that's more efficient than having your own employees build the roads. Come on. But will we know? Will we ever know if it's more efficient? So did anything come out of that committee about, I would hope the committee wants a breakdown. Show us what the contracts are, how much they cost, and compare it to how much it would have cost to do it in-house. Did they ask for that?
Yeah, there were some questions around contractors, but those hard questions.
Well, I think it's a very simple premise.
Yeah.
Compare it to if you did it in-house. How are we coming out?
Well, so it is. I mean, this is right there with contract transparency that we've talked about. And we had this conversation with Chairman Torbett when he was on the podcast that not only the state health plan and retirement system contracts, but all of these DOT contracts that, how much are we spending on stuff?
Phoenix never going to say you should use state employees no matter what, no matter if it's more efficient or not.
Yeah.
But if no one's looking at whether it's more efficient
or
more cost efficient,
then we don't know.
That's wasteful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just take issue with the overall philosophy that the private sector can always do things more cost efficiently. That's obviously not true. Like, that's the reason we have government in the first place, right? I mean,
well, and Representative Kidwell is very solid in his philosophy that government is a business. I disagree. I'm pretty sure everybody in this room disagrees. It is not a business.
It's the opposite of a business.
It's the opposite
Like,
of a
that's-
business. So
Yeah.
you can't run it like a business.
It doesn't get to make a profit.
Mm-mm.
I mean, agencies have to do things to the wire, and businesses are seeking to make their whole goal of a business is not to break even.
Yeah.
The whole goal of state agencies is to break even and not spend any more of the money.
Don't go over your budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if there was a business that could build a road and make profit from it, then you wouldn't need a DOT.
Right.
Like, obviously, the need is there, and government agencies, departments, they exist to fill that need.
And find me a business that doesn't increase what they charge you every year. Government, the whole goal of whoever's in charge, they try to keep the taxes from going up. But business literally every year increases your costs
That's just I'm
because
sorry.
their costs increase.
I'm sorry. That's just an offensive way to look at
It is a
from a state employee's perspective. If I was a state employee, which I do represent state employees, so maybe I kind of am, but I would be offended by something like that.
taxpayer, period, you should be offended by.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Well, it's a bit of a gross generalization.
Yeah.
it really is.
It's like saying every single state contract goes to a contractor that's charging way too much.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
every one of them's probably not. But how do you know unless you look
No.
at them? So to make a gross generalization that, oh yeah, they're more efficient without us comparing them to if we did the work in-house is no more fair than saying they're all crooked contracts.
Yeah.
That would be ridiculous. So
Well, the Oversight Committee on Department of Transportation meets tomorrow, so see if
Interesting.
there's any follow-up questioning.
So I was reading a different WRAL article specifically on that meeting, but they focus mostly on the DMV part of the presentation, I guess. Commissioner Paul Tyne said that wait times have decreased by 31% in recent months. So that's good. We
That's
talked a
great.
lot about DMV over the last few months, a lot of interest in that. And the improvement follows recent hiring of dozens of DMV examiners. So maybe they're on the right track there.
Yeah, and Commissioner Tyne certainly had some work cut out for himself, but he seems to be on a good track to make some good changes within the agency.
And we are working to get him on the podcast.
Yeah, we are. He said in that meeting that he had been, I think there's 115 offices, and he had visited 113. He's been to almost every one of them. So he shared some really good real-time experiences that he had with employees on the ground doing the job. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Anything else come out of that meeting that you...
that's about it.
Well, let's go to our interview. I think that's a good transition from this discussion on the role of state employment and public services in general to our great interview with State Human Resources Director Staci Meyer. She was very personable, and we enjoyed having some time with her. So we'll
She's
come back.
awesome.
Yeah, we said it in time. Just, she's awesome.
So we'll listen to that, and we'll come back for a little wrap-up at the end. Okay, today we are very excited to have a special guest join us. State Human Resources Director Staci Meyer is in the podcast studio with us. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here today. Thanks for asking me.
And Director Meyer, you're kind of new to the job, I guess, when Governor Stein came on.
I am.
Came aboard with him, right? So,
I started on January 1st with Governor Stein's team.
okay,
and,
tell us a little bit about your background, I guess.
Well, I've been in state government. This is my 10th administration. So I've been in state
Wow.
government, a state employee for many years now, way more than 30.
Wow.
So I have enjoyed my career. I started as an intern at the SBI. I worked for the Department of Revenue for a period of time as an intern, left and went to law school and finished. After I finished law school, I came back to state employment. I never really wanted to do anything else. That was the plan. And began clerking at the North Carolina Court of Appeals and then on to the Attorney General's office, where I worked for many years doing litigation, and left after a period of time, about almost 15 years, and went to the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. And I was there for many years, left there, and when I changed into administration
Wow.
after the Easley administration, and I went to the Industrial Commission, and later I was a commissioner there and later became chair. and another change of administration, I went back to the Attorney General's office.
Wow.
And worked there for several years. And then, of course, went back to natural and cultural resources. They say you can't go home again, but I loved going back to natural and cultural resources in that role as chief deputy there. I had a great experience as deputy secretary and then chief deputy. And I left there to take this job in January.
So you may hold the record for most departments worked in state government?
Yes, I might. Actually, I've either worked in or represented almost every department in state government with the exception of military and veterans because it didn't exist, when I was moving until recently, and I was moving around in agencies, and DIT. So they were two that I didn't represent or work in, but most every one in some fashion I have.
Wow. So how many years is that, do you?
I think it's close to 36.
Okay.
Not that I'm counting, but I looked in the system. I didn't really have any idea how much time I had, but I looked in the system and it told me in orbit that the last time I'd been in there was 2009. It's probably not a good idea. You should probably go in that system more often. I'm sure the treasurer would say, you need to check on these things. But I hadn't, of course. And so it told me with sick leave and all that, I was like, I think close to 36 years.
Wow. So who better to hold this position, right?
And that leads us to our next question. I've been really wanting to know the answer to this.
Okay.
Because you have seen it, and I shared this with Governor Stein. I think you're the most qualified person he probably could have picked for this job because you've literally done everything from the lowest levels of the agencies to running an agency. And I don't even think there's a handful of people you could find who've done that. So having seen it all, having struggled with a lot of things about the HR parts of state government over decades, what has surprised you most with OSHR and what has just not surprised you a bit?
I have a lot of experience as a state employee. So when I came to this job, that was my focus. I'm coming to this job. I've worked in human resources and with human resources my whole career. I've managed it or been part of it or done employment law. So I've had a lot of experience on the human resources side. But the best and most experience I have is as a state employee. So I came with that perspective. And I think that's really important. Like, what's the most surprising thing? So I'm surprised by the size of our agency and budget that we're able to do as much as we are with such a small office. When I was at DNCR, it was a much bigger agency. And, the great part about that is that even as a large agency, it moved with speed and agility. And I love that. But with a smaller staff, we have to be ready to pivot. And we have to answer a lot of different questions. It seems like every question is a different subject area. It's all in HR, but it does impact how we do business. Recently, I was talking to one person on my team, and we're talking about the impact that OSHR has. And it's like, I understand, there are so many state employees and there's so many agencies. I said, yeah, there are. But the amazing thing is that through all of these state employees, we touch everyone who lives in North Carolina and who visits North Carolina. So while we're small and mighty. We really have a large footprint.
Well, how many?
About 135.
Oh, wow.
So we don't have a huge team, but they do amazing things. And I've watched as they have undertaken changes since I've been there and with hardships that are happening because like with furloughs and with no budget. I mean, all of these things are issues that we deal with every day. So I am very impressed with our staff and our team at OSHR and how we handle, various topics. So it's exciting to be there, that's for sure.
So this is a broad question. What's the biggest challenge for the state as an employer? And you can probably tie this into some of the conversation that we would have asked you about too with Senate Bill 124 that Governor Stein signed on July 1. That was a fantastic piece of legislation. So kind of talk about how that plays into being the employer here in, for North Carolina and the challenges that we face and how Senate Bill 124, which is now law, will help
Yeah.
you.
Well, let me just talk briefly and say, I went to the legislature and said, we got to have some changes. Our statewide vacancy rate is about 20%. And when I was talking to these committees at the legislature, I explained, our average time to hire somebody is about 182 days. That was the predecessor to Session Law,
Right.
2025-34, excuse me. And so these are all points that I've been trying to make. In 6 years, more than 25% of state employees can retire. We have a 20% vacancy rate. It takes us 182 days to fill a job. We have to figure out a way to make human resources easier, faster, and better. So that was sort of an effort with the session law and changes in the session law that would really help us address some of these issues. So talking about the changes in the session law, I'm just going to go through sort of a number of things that I think are really impactful in how we address those issues that I laid out before the legislature. One, it allows candidates to apply for state jobs with a resume or an online profile. In the past, we hadn't been able to use things like LinkedIn and Indeed. It expands temporary to permanent hiring to all agencies. And I think that is sort of a critical piece when you're able to hire a temp. And you can do that very quickly using temp solutions, or some agencies are able to hire directly. But if you can hire a temporary, after 6 months, they can be made permanent in that role. If there's a vacancy, they can be turned into a permanent employee. Making permanent agency hiring, pay, and classification more flexible. Agencies now have about 95% delegation authority, and we made that permanent. So agencies have flexibility for continuous postings. That makes it easier for them to hire. They have an ability now to do pooled hiring. So you get into a pool of applicants, and they can all come into one pool. You can interview for more than one job, and it's really exciting to watch what agencies are able to do. We want agencies to be able to immediately hire the most qualified candidates from a previous posting. That wasn't a possibility before, but with the changes to the law that it is now. We are looking at a complete rewrite of Chapter 126. We want to modernize our performance management process. That is one thing I think managers, it's hard for employees, it's hard for managers. I'm able to look at the data that we have to see utilization rates of that. So we want to look at performance management and how to simplify that and make it easier so it helps our state employees, it helps managers and agencies to really look at performance. And so we're trying to modernize that.
Everyone will love that.
I know that. I believe that.
Yeah.
And just a real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Chapter 126 for our listeners is the State Human Resources
Yes,
Act.
I'm sorry. Chapter 126 is the State Human Resources Act. It was written when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
And as you can see, your viewers can't, but that was a minute ago. So it's time for us to modernize that. And I'll just say a couple more things now. One, the changes in the session law, they allow sign-on and retention bonuses. They're allowing veteran and National Guard hiring preferences for local governments. That hadn't been done in the past. And again, that session law tells us to rewrite the State Human Resources Act to modernize it and simplify it.
So modernizing the State Human Resources Act seems very crucial to the next generation of state employees, right, to entice folks to come to work here. So what does the state workforce look like right now?
Right now, the current average age of a state employee is about 46 years old, and that has held true probably for about 10 years now. So it's been on a fairly consistent trend for the last decade. But, I think it's really important that we get new state employees. Well, like I said a minute ago, in 6 years, 25% of us can retire. So critically, reaching out and getting new state employees is how we prepare for the future. And again, having diversity of age and experience across state government, I think is critical.
Yeah, we're facing the same thing as Scenic.
Yeah, any organization. We always say it's just like the church. You have to be putting them in the pew, all ages, because the same folks aren't going to run the church forever. So state government's got to be diverse.
Yes.
To keep going and to keep building that experience base that we rely on right now. But, well, speaking of that, relying on retirees, they
Yes.
feel a little neglect. And this isn't your job to try to advocate for retirees, so I'm not trying to put it on you. But I know we have retiree listeners, and they are feeling shocked and really disappointed that they had seen retirees get COLAs every year, all these years they were working, and they stayed with the state thinking, this is how we treat the retirees, so I want to stay long enough to be a retiree. You've got a workforce that you're trying to retain.
Yes.
Do you think it's possible that seeing how retirees are being treated right now, that they've been shut out of any adjustment in their paycheck, their base pay as a retiree, is that potentially affecting the ability to retain workers right now who may be, I don't know, somewhere between 11 and 20 years trying to decide, am I going to stick it out?
Well, I think knowing and understanding your benefits and elevating the value of public service is something that my office is very committed to doing. And I said earlier today, knowing what benefits that we have and how they work, and I'm guilty. I told you I didn't go into the retirement system website. The last time I'd been in it was 2009. But I think understanding the value of a pension, of salary increases given by the legislature, of various programs we have like 401ks and 457s. So at our last Teachers and State Employees Retirement Board meeting, and I sit on that by virtue of the position that I hold, there was comment on retirees and the cost of living adjustment and what's needed in the State Employees Retirement Fund for that. So there was a lengthy discussion. So I know those issues around retirees is at the forefront. That is being discussed and contemplated by the Treasurer's Office and the Retirement Fund, as well as the legislature. So that is out there. But I think we need to do, hopefully at OSHR, we can do a different and better job going forward of explaining the types of benefits that we have, like 401ks and 457s, and the estate employee's ability to put away $25 or $50 or $100 of a paycheck. I know in some cases there's not an ability to do that. It's not there. You can't do it.
Yeah.
But the value, I just feel like if I'd had that information, I might have done things differently 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I think explaining what the value of being a state employee is, and particularly in this world today of there are not really pension funds. I mean, they are dwindling, and government is one of the few places where you have a defined pension benefit plan. So having that along with the ancillary benefits or auxiliary benefits we have, and like the 457, the flex benefits, or the 401k, those are all great values to state employees. So
we do run into that a lot. People will say, oh, I didn't know we had that.
I think that is something I want us to look very carefully at, how we tell those stories. And I think it's really critically important in the retention part of, do I stay? Do I make this a career? I want everyone to think about state service as a career. When you come in, there's all kinds of reasons how this can be a great career. It's been a great career for me. So I want other people to feel like I feel, and that I made absolutely the right choice.
So on the flip side of that, how do we recruit and retain younger employees who may not really be looking for a 30-year career right now? We've talked about that in our Gen Z moment that we have every episode, that seems like younger employees are looking to.
Well, I heard an interesting keynote speech last week. I was at a conference, and it was not something I expected, but it was on the generations we have 4 generations in our workforce right now.
Yeah.
And, we talk about the difference in baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer. There weren't many of us in the room, let me just say. Mm-hmm. And then we had the Gen X, and then we had the millennials, and then we had the Gen Z, and about how all of our generations think differently about work. And hearing that, it was impactful. It taught me a lot about how I think and how things work, and how it's different for me than it is for a millennial, and how they look at things differently. For example, looking at longevity pay, in the state system, that's 10 years. You reach 10 years, that's longevity pay. does that hold true for today? Is that something, is longevity 10 years? Is it a shorter time? Those are all things that I think we have to look at in terms of retention of state employees. And in terms of how we approach recruiting and making a career within state government, we need to be in high schools. We need to be at community colleges. We need to be everywhere. And I think we need state employees to say, I have a valuable career. Maybe not every job, but pretty much every job that is out in the real world, we have that same job in state government.
Mm-hmm.
And we do all of those things that the private sector does. So somewhere out there, there are incredible jobs that compare to that job that you're looking at in the private sector.
Yeah, you got competitors.
Yes. And so one of the things, too, I think about the competition is that in state government, like the changes that we've made under the new session law, it is critically important that, we removed a lot of barriers, like experience barriers and college degree requirements. We have so many postings that required a college degree. Now we've sort of pared that down and kind of cut out all the unnecessary qualifications so that it allows a wider pool. It allows people to be considered. I think it's off-putting when you look at a job and you see an experience requirement that's so long, you get to the bottom of it and go, wow, I don't even qualify for this. I'm not going to apply. And so streamlining that, making it simple and making it easier and making those barriers of so detailed expectation of what this position requires, making that a management preference rather than a requirement to apply. I think that's going to help us in terms of recruiting. And, the temp-to-perm piece, where if you get hired as a temp and you're doing a great job, you can be hired into that position. In the past, if that position was posted, you may have to apply, and then out there in the world, you have a lot more competition, people with higher degrees or more experience. But
you've been doing the job.
If you're that person in the job and you're doing a great job, then it solves a real serious recruitment issue of, this person's great. Do I really have to go out and look for another person, go through the interview process,
it all costs
the
money to
screening?
do that.
It all costs money, but more importantly, it costs time. And the time that it costs means that there's this vacant position in state government. And what does that mean? That means some other state employee is having to do that person's job when it's vacant. And it's just a burden on existing employees. So having those jobs filled quicker and better and faster, I think, is just a win for all of us.
That's great.
Yeah, and Scenic's been pounding this drum since we're sitting here talking about making government employment appealing. We've been pounding the drum over vacancy. I mean, we've had a crisis here in North Carolina where taxpayers are maybe getting about 75% of the services that they're paying 100% for with their tax dollars. So that being said, what's an updated number of the current vacancy rate?
I think it's about 19% now,
so
like close to 19. It has come down a little bit, but I will tell you that I think that the data that we have, I think looking at it, it's hard to tell what the actual vacancy is compared to positions that have been vacant for a very long time that agencies aren't filling or don't need to fill. So when you look at Workday, the new Workday program that just went live on October 8th through our office, our human capital management program, that is going to give us different data. So we hope that we will be able to see how long has the position been advertised? How long does it take to fill it? It will give us that kind of information, and I promise to get that number down, time to fill, by half.
We don't want to see it go down, though, because of jobs that are cut.
Yeah, well, no, we don't we don't want jobs that are cut. But what we want is we want agencies to have a way forward that they can fill their positions, and they can do it easier and faster. So that helps everyone, and that's what we're looking for, just to make it easier for employees to get jobs, for agencies to fill jobs. That's the goal with our new Workday product. So I'm hoping, are going to get a lot better data, and we'll be able to report a decline in the time that it takes us to hire. It's bound to improve. So I sort of staked myself out that I was really working on this. And I think there's an expectation that with the investments the legislature has made in my office, that we're going to do that.
Right.
Well, and you have a very well-earned reputation at the legislature as being reasonable when you deal. And sorry, listeners, I do have a mint in my mouth because I can't stop coughing if I
thought
don't.
you were going to say, I'm sorry, I'm not seen as reasonable.
Oh, well, that too. But thank goodness Director Meyer is. But you're very reasonable in your approach with legislators, and it's great because they respect you and they will listen to you. One of the things we've tried to talk about is turnover costs. If you do have vacancies and you're interviewing all the time, do we have a handle on what those are? Have we looked at that? And
We've looked at it. I mean, it can be as much as 1 to 2 times a salary, to have that cost of turnover, especially when you get people in a job and then they're there 6 months and then they're gone. That is a really expensive proposition. And again, I'm going to go back to that temp-to-perm hiring. When somebody's been in that job and they're doing a great job and they can be made permanent after 6 months, I think those are the kinds of things that we want to do to avoid turnover. But I think education and leadership development and OSHR, we now have an organizational health director. So we have someone there who is focusing on organizational health. And I think that these are all critical pieces to understand our recruitment issues and our retention issues and thinking about what employees need to succeed in their careers. So we're keenly aware of the cost of turnover, and we don't want to see that. We want to see people come and we want to see people stay.
Yes.
So, wrapping up, what do you wish people knew about state employment? Just a very broad question that we can end on.
Wow. Well, I would like for them to know what I know, and that there is stability in public service. Although, nationally, I think people are questioning some of that now, and that makes it a really hard thing. But long term, state employees are doing amazing things. I said earlier, they touch everything that we do in North Carolina, every citizen. We provide those services. And so they all serve critical roles in how we function as a state. And, sometimes I think we as state employees don't realize the collective nature of what it means and how impactful our work is. While one job may not be impactful, the collective nature of that impacts everyone who crosses our state line and who lives in our state. So visitors and residents, everything that we do as state employees is a critical piece of the success of North Carolina. And I think that's what our governor really tries to do, is so that everyone has a meaningful opportunity in North Carolina. So in closing, I just want to say that, you pointed out some recent successes that we've had at OSHR in terms of how we're changing our service model and the changes we got at the legislature. And I want the listeners to know that we have worked very closely with Scenic. I wouldn't have had that kind of success at the legislature without my team and without your team. And I think that's been really critical in addressing the needs of state employees and the needs of state retirees. I think all of that is important, but we have collaborated and I think have seen great success. And I think that will impact the future of OSHR and with state employment. So working together, collectively, we have been able to accomplish things that our office could not have done alone. And I just want to thank you for that.
Well, we appreciate you too.
That's very
appreciate
sweet.
you too. Thank you.
Very sweet. And I will just say that we talked a little bit about when we first saw that you had taken the job. Every time we have a new governor, we also look to see who
we hold our breath.
I know. We're like, oh, Lord.
You just don't.
We look to see who the state human resources director will be first. And this year we were very pleased, I think.
I think a lot of people did not expect that someone like me would be chosen for this role. And I'm very excited to have been chosen. I go to work every day thinking about how to do this job and how to make it better for state employees and state agencies. So for me, I'm very honored to have been selected, and every day has been fulfilling.
That's
Oh,
wonderful.
Awesome.
I love it.
I do too.
Awesome. Perfect way to end. Thanks for coming in and spending some time with us. All right. Well, that was a great interview, and hopefully we'll have her back a few more times.
There's so much to talk about.
Yeah, so much. And she said she had, 130 some employees. And last week we had the Military and Veteran Affairs
Secretary
Secretary.
Smollett.
120.
and she
give or
had
take.
120 some.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
giving
Two
some
of the
love.
smaller but really important
Yeah.
agencies.
Yeah. So what is our Gen Z moment this week?
So kind of keeping in track with us having a discussion with the State Human Resources Director, Staci Meyer, I found an article that was published last month, 2 months ago, that talks about 12 solutions for attracting Gen Z candidates to public service. The 3 main areas of focus that they had in here were leaning in on purpose and satisfaction,
Mm-hmm.
meeting Gen Z where they are, and aligning opportunities and benefits to Gen Z priorities. Now, there were different aspects to each parts of those, and I won't go too deep into them, but the specific solutions that they mention in this article are adapting your advertising to Gen Z's priorities and offering opportunities to experience public service work for the leaning in on purpose and satisfaction, which kind of goes back to discussions we've previously had about how Gen Zs are really focused on doing work that they can see the change
Mhm.
and
Make a
see the
difference,
difference
yeah.
that they're making.
I think that ties a little bit in with what Director Meyer was saying too about starting as a temp and then working your way into
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
full-time
I
position.
mean, she began as an intern in state government and got so into it.
Yeah. So if you're
She's done basically
graduating,
everything.
if you're graduating high school or college, or
Mhm.
and you're interested in public service, you should look into internships and temporary positions. Also, I guess maybe modernizing the Human Resources Act and also the hiring practices.
Yeah,
It
that's
should be a
huge.
big thing
Which
for recruiting.
is part of their meeting Gen Zs where they are,
Yeah.
is shortening recruitment timelines, using innovative hiring technology, hire students early in the recruitment cycle, creating talent pipelines,
Yeah, she mentioned that
leveraging
too,
role
didn't she?
models.
Going to talk to
Mhm.
community
Mhm.
colleges.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when they discuss aligning opportunities and benefits to Gen Z's priorities, they are discussing more of the increasing workplace flexibility of remote and hybrid work. The hybrid opportunities, when they are accessible, is something that Gen Z always looks for. Because not every job can be hybrid, but when state employment has the opportunity to make a job hybrid, because I know that in the communications office at the NCDOT, quite a few of their positions are hybrid positions where they do have optional days of you can work from home on these days.
Well, that's moving with the times. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also
State government's doing that.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
actually doing a ton of remote work, and
Mhm. But of course,
they're
once
kind of
again,
ahead of the curve on that, I think.
Yeah.
not every position can do that. There
Correct.
are a lot of
Yeah.
positions that
Correct.
still require you to be in
Yeah.
person.
Be a virtual correctional officer.
No,
No.
it doesn't matter if it's icy on the roads or what. You got to get there.
And then some of those other alignment of opportunities and benefits include changing healthcare and related benefits to ensure competitiveness, providing structured development opportunities, and advertising your on-the-job perks.
And
Mhm.
Staci Meyer
Yeah.
addresses that too.
On that track, yeah.
That we don't really get the word out there so much about
Yeah.
things that are offered in state government. So great.
Good.
Well, that's very
Good find there, Sam. That ties into our interview very well. So good job.
It just happens to be perfect that it was released on my birthday. This article was.
it was
So-
kismet.
So my question of the week this week.
John's wacky weird question of the week.
So my question of the week this week is one that I've done before, but I think it's a good time to revisit it every 5 or 6 months because it changes. What are you doing right now that is cool? Like, are you into a podcast or a book or an app that you're using? What cool can we tell our members about that they need to check out?
I am so not cool.
Something cool we're doing or something cool we've seen or
Anything.
Or
Anything. Just
something
what's cool,
cool.
right? Like, what do people
like
need
a
to know
cool
about?
TV show or
What
something.
do people need to know about? Okay? What do you think?
I mean, it's cool to me and I love it. I've been using ClassPass. I would love to be sponsored by ClassPass. I think that'd be a great sponsorship for us. ClassPass is a app, but it's also like a gym membership. But it's really cool because instead of paying for, say you like going to O2 Fitness, instead of paying $100 a month to go to O2 Fitness whenever you want, you pay a certain amount of money for credits to go to any gym or participating studio in the area. So there's a
You're
lot
just
of
not hooked
yoga
on.
gyms, Pilates studios, cycling studios, stuff like that participate in it. And I love it because I get to go to Swifty Sunday cycling classes, but I can also go to like reformer Pilates classes, and it's so enjoyable for me, and it's become something that's made me more of a morning person. I will wake up at like 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning to go to a Pilates class, but if I don't have anything, I'm like, I'm sleeping till noon.
Very cool. Very
So.
cool suggestion. I'm looking at it now. I'm probably not going to get it, but but it is available in Charlotte and Raleigh.
Yeah,
So-
it's available across the country. There's so many different studios throughout the country that participate in it. It depends on your area whether you'll have as many or less studios, but
that's almost
it's
like
available wherever.
that's almost like DoorDash or Uber or
Yeah, except for gyms.
it's like timeshare for
Exactly.
gyms.
It's so cool.
That's cool. That's a
I
cool
love
idea.
it.
I love like weird ideas like that make it big.
Yeah.
And interesting.
Yeah, y'all still thinking? Because
Suzanne and I are both like squinting.
Well,
like,
I mean, I've
what
got a-
have I done?
So I have
know.
a
You got
Go
any
ahead.
new
Go,
books,
John,
Suzanne?
please, by this time.
Okay. So mine is a podcast that I found, and it's called Varnumtown. Do y'all know where Varnumtown is?
Varnumtown.
Varnumtown, North Carolina?
No.
Oh, my God.
No, I didn't think there was anywhere
So,
we didn't know.
Varnum-
Varnumtown, North Carolina is like just beside Holden Beach. And it's like this really, it's not even really a town, but it's like a very little
Little
area.
community.
Kyle MacLachlan, who is like the guy from Twin Peaks, the actor,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
he found out about this story or this book that someone wrote down in Varnumtown about the history of the drug trade in Varnumtown. And apparently it's like, well, I mean, obviously I've listened to it. So, but there was a man in Varnumtown. I won't get into specifics so I don't get murdered, but he was like working with the cartel, and Varnumtown was like this midway point between Columbia and New York City. And like drugs were
What?
coming in there, and it was wild. And it's like a wild.
It's like our own little version of the Ozarks.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. It should be a
Ozark,
TV show.
yeah.
And it's this town that my uncle lives in. When I first found out about the podcast, I was like, Ricky, do you know about all this? And he was like, the lady who wrote the book is my neighbor. And so
Wow.
I found out I've got to talk to the
Well,
neighbor.
now everybody knows where Ricky lives.
Yeah, it's a very small town.
You just
But-
exposed Ricky.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. little
So
Carolina.
the podcast is called Varnumtown, Varnam town, and it's very interesting. And Kyle MacLachlan is the narrator, and it's got like a Twin Peaks vibe to it too. So it's very cool.
Cool.
Definitely check that
Okay,
one.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
I don't know how cool this is, but with all the hullabaloo over Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl, there was the deal with Duolingo to get some free lessons. So I've been learning some Spanish.
That's very good.
Yeah.
They took advantage of that, didn't they?
I jumped right on that, man. I'm
So how fluent are you now?
not. It's interesting though how much you will know, from hearing and reading something, but not be conversational.
Yeah.
Like there are lots of words like, oh, I knew that, but to sit and have a conversation,
Yeah.
so far from that. But goals.
Yeah, definitely.
Goals.
I think it's harder to learn a new language as you get older, right? They say if
Probably.
you can learn it when you're like 3, then you,
Yeah, you
Oh,
just
wait.
kind of grow up with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's if I learn it too, then it's something that I can pass on to
Yeah.
my grandbabies, Mia and Livy. So that was
Awesome.
cool.
What about you, artist? You're on the hot seat.
Well, there's this new thing called the air fryer.
Oh.
You know how I'm usually about 10 years late on things. And so I've only recently started really using the air fryer. It's awesome.
Yeah, the air fryer is
It
great.
is changing my life.
I
just wanna
love
say that.
mine.
So if any of you have never heard of an air fryer, try it.
Air fryer is
It's a cool
great.
new thing.
Faster than an oven.
And it's great for reheating pizza.
Yeah, it's not mushy like when you put it in
Yeah.
the microwave.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have no idea if it uses more power than the oven or not.
I don't know.
But that would be interesting. If it doesn't, that would make it even cooler.
I would think it doesn't because it's just blowing
Yeah.
air around, right?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know how it works.
There's a coil.
All I know is the wings are crispy when they come out. So
Mm-hmm.
All I know is 10 minutes at 400 for the best salmon that I've ever had.
See,
Damn it.
I'm a trailblazer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a good place to wrap up. Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you next week.